Sorry I'm late. I released a new mod pack called Bottom of the Barrel, and I got a little too deep into the development process for a recent update I did to it. The update was called Farm from Done, and I had to basically rework the nutrition process and figure out why In Control was having a stroke over phantom spawns, but I digress. Welcome to the 5th part of the Divine Journey 2 experience. We last left off polluting the world with coal dust and factory fumes, expanding our factory right into the village behind us, and mostly completing the immersive engineering chapter, granting us access to Mechanism and the AE2 chapter. You may be surprised to hear, though, that this episode is a bit scattered due to me discovering a lot of information, so we're actually going to be sticking in immersive engineering for reasons we will discuss soon. So sit back, relax, and get ready to continue our journey. Also, hit the like and sub button or some shit. I don't know, you do you, I'm not your mom. It helps me acquire a silver play button, and if we hit 50,000 subs, I'll play Growtech New Horizons to completion. Also, the link to the mod pack I made is in the description. It's an alpha though, so just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm done now. Let's pick up where we last left off. At the end of day 160 from last episode, we're kicking off with our members and comments board. So, special thanks to our members, Bite-Sized Gamer, Bebador21, Cookie Lovers, which said they rejoined, but I don't see them on the board, so let's fix that real quick, Digitized Gold, and mid-comments I realized I forgot to change someone's name. There we go. Now, I won't make this a constant thing that I'll do, but I'll make the exception before this list gets too long to browse. Hey, it's a post-recording bottom dweller. Yep, I added it again, goofing up the members board. Nachi Bree, I see you. I did put your name on the board, I just forgot to record your name in the voices. Great. Awesome. Thank you all, as always, for keeping the lights on, especially since I'm now developing a mod pack alongside doing all my content. It's greatly appreciated, and I'm sorry the episode gap has gotten a little long. On that note, comments time. Only a few this time, but that's because a lot of you were giving similar pointers on the last episode, and hey, I'm not against that. I'm glad you guys were willing to help, but it keeps the comment pool kinda light as to not create redundancy. Getting to the point, Zizu gave tons of tips for immersive engineering. Greatly appreciate that you were willing to help me out a little bit, and we'll see how much of that comes in handy. Eric Smith said that they choked on tea during my urethra bit. To be entirely fair, I think there's a lot of people out there that choke on urethra. Then we have Impleaked? I'm so butchering that name. Anyways, they said, "Girl, I don't care you're late, I'm happy you're here," which to that I say, I'm flattered. I'm glad that the long wait times aren't the worst thing in the world. It's really hard to keep up with a playthrough when you're doing like 5 other things at the same time. Thanks again for your fantastic comments. I love reading them, and it's cool to see this community band together like this. As always, feel free to leave a comment of your own, and you might end up on the board. All that being said, the day is over, and we need to sleep to get this series back on its normal cadence. Day 161. Now we're kicking off properly, observing the quest book. Fucking! Moving on, we need energized osmium and Certus quartz. Fortunately, it's not all that hard to make. We literally just had to take some osmium and Certus quartz and surround the bucket of biofuel, and wow, look at that, done. With that out of the way, I observed the recipes to start AE2 and Mechanism, and let's just say that this is going to take a fat minute. Steel is clearly something I was supposed to be mass producing a while ago, but with me having the foresight of a brain-damaged oracle, I clearly neglected this. So we gotta do a mining trip, as the current plan is to make a giant blast furnace line that would make Andrew Carnegie reconsider his dating preference. However, for this trip, I've chosen the Nether to test a theory. A few comments brought up Nether ore actually having an increased return rate when slapped into a smeltery, so I'm gonna stockpile. If it works, we're rich. If it doesn't, well, at least we still got a large amount of metal and some diamonds. I had a relatively relaxing time in hell this time around. It was peaceful, quiet, well, as quiet as hell could be with a few too many close calls with lava, but still, the easiest hell visit I've had. I spent the entire day in the deep rubble of Tartars, collecting almost every ore I laid my eyes upon. The locals weren't pleased, but they can have an opinion when they stop running at me with gold swords like I can't just atomize them on contact. I bail out of hell during the night time and sleep the rest of the day away. Day 162 to 171, after dumping off all metal, I set out to make a dedicated room for our blast furnace line, which took the action of flattening the other side of the mountain, pulling a Houdini on the village behind the cube, and smelting a different stone because I felt like getting a little creative with how I visualize capitalistic monotony. Honestly, this time jump stuff happens so frequently during build projects, I'm almost convinced to drop cataloging each day by number and just mentioning everything I do in bulk. I think that ups at the current flow though, so let me know in the comments. Bottom line, this long room is done and we now have 2 improved blast furnace. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't I just shit on these last episode?
You are correct, sir!
However, a lot of you told me in the comments that there's actually a blast furnace heater that lets me effectively increase the production rate on these improved blast furnaces, which the quest book said, but I was yet again caught by my caveman illiteracy. Either way, we got there eventually. We're probably going to be spending an alarming amount of time on making a blast furnace line though, as this steel wait time has overstayed its welcome. We'll start that journey during the next day. Day 172 was spent pretty much gathering clay for the first half. Believe it or not, in my heart of hearts, I know this ain't gonna be enough clay, though that's the easy part. The hard part is Invar, which, if you can recall, is iron and nickel alloy. I hopped into the nether, now seeing the light and witnessing the glory of quadruple ores, which makes me question why we even use mechanism here, but I digress. The problem is that halfway into the session, I realized that of all ores in the nether, nickel was not one of them, so I basically wasted a lot of time in here. I then spent day 173 scouring what remained of my once clean-looking mine for nickel, and I only found 15 of them. God, I swear this shit didn't used to be this rare. That being said, the mining trip had a close call involving an ender spider and a couple witches, but other than that, I lined my pockets with everything but what I needed and slept the rest of the day away. Day 174, nickel was dumped in with our nether iron, and it conveniently gave us about 10 blocks worth of Invar. Still, not quite enough, but for now it'll do. I started pouring it out and began crafting blast bricks. Slowly, but you know, what can you do? I cleared out some mountain in the downtime, killed some homeless people who snuck into the office for a quick nap, then got enough blast bricks for another blast furnace. Just need the hopper and we got 3. Ideally we want to make a tree farm to process into charcoal farms, and then the coal coke, which we dump into the blast furnace. One step at a time though, and right now I think I'm alright with sticking with 3 to 4 blast furnaces at this current moment. We still need to craft the blast furnace preheaters, and I've got a sneaking suspicion that my thermal generator is going to need a buddy when I start that. For now, move my bed because mobs are spawning under my floors, and snooze the day away. Day 175, we immediately start by making a hopper, then take the time of the day to make the heater. It weirdly took a minute as I ran into a situation where I lacked wire, so I had to process that on top of the iron plates that I was still making. This took a chunk of the day as I tried to figure out a plan beyond a heater while waiting, and then decided my next best course of action would be to try and do another trick I was told in the comments. Apparently, you're supposed to be able to transfer wire connections through walls, but I'm not entirely sure, how. Feed-through insulators aren't in this version, so I think someone told me information I literally can't use. I did get the heater crafted and placed, but the quest requires 2, so I need to make a second one. That being said, I've pretty much completely blew through this day, so we're just gonna move on. Day 176. Alright, game plan. Get the power flowing to the blast furnace room, and afterwards determine if we need another thermoelectric generator. We just need connectors and MV wire. Shouldn't be too bad at all. That being said, I accidentally fat-fingered the full screen button, and it made OBS decide I didn't want to track the window anymore, so I lost half the day pretty much. I made a bunch more terracotta and MV wire relays, but I eventually ran out of MV wire, so I sat and waited next to my conveyor, which lost power because I forgot to reconnect it to the grid, and got myself some more. Afterwards, I connected all the relays and powered the first of many blast furnace heaters. The good news is we don't need another power source yet. The bad news is either I actually need to have 2 attached, or this is barely an improvement and I stand on my statement that the improved blast furnace is a sack of ass cheeks. Guess we won't find out till later though. That being said, day 177 was almost entirely spent waiting on copper wire bits to make another heater and dumping galorium because I have a lot that I haven't melted down yet. So more mountain deletion, as you'd expect. At the end of the day I make the bits and bobs required to make our second heater and completed the quest. However, I lack the MV wire again, so we gotta do some shit involving that real quick. I slept a day away while we processed that. Day 178. Alright, now with the MV wire made, I set up our energy output for the second heater, and now for the moment of truth. Yeah, it's faster. I just don't think it was worth it. I spent this time making these machines only for it to boost the speed a noticeable but not sufficient amount. I think I'll just make more blast furnaces for now, and we can consider speeding it up once I get to the point where making these heaters isn't expensive as hell. Moving on though, it's time we finally look into mechanism and AE2. I craft the meteor compass and find out that it's just spinning. Only to find out that I yet again did not read, and that meteors are an atom specifically. That's a problem considering we kinda don't have access to that area yet, as it's locked behind the big fuck-off smelter we didn't make last episode. On top of that, Mechanism awards you with an HV power kit, which implies to me that our MV power output ain't gonna cut it, so we're still in the industrial era, understood. I spent most of the day scheming up our next plan, and it turns out we do need to actually type into a classic unfinished dimension, Twilight Forest, which has had its process altered by requiring a new component, which we have all the ingredients for except brown dye, which conveniently cocoa beans are tagged as, so we're gonna be going to the jungle on the next day. Day 179, alright, let's check our nature compass. No, I'm not even surprised. Okay, 4K block trek ahead, we might as well stock up on stalactite. Glad I did, considering that I somehow end up with less stalactite by the end of the trip. I begin my multinational flight to Brazil. On my way, stumbling into the almighty purple slime island. If you don't know this island slime allows you to make a night slime, a really fucking solid material. Only downside is this pack does not have Tinker's armor, so it serves a different different purpose. Using the collection of magma slime, normal slime, blue slime, and purple slime, we can add paper modifiers to our tools, allowing for even more modifiers. After atomizing the entire surface of the slime world, I then continued to the jungle in the nighttime, collected more than enough jungle wood for the foreseeable future, got the cocoa beans, and warped back home, planting the cocoa beans except one and ending the day. Day 180. Alright, we need graphite dust for a piece, so I just spend time processing some graphite dust, then I use the cocoa beans, blood of the almighty boner, stalactite, and the graphite dust to make our ticket into the Twilight Forest. I harvest some potatoes before the journey and hop in as nighttime approaches, where I was immediately greeted with the all too familiar shattering sound of a portal breaking, because apparently mushrooms spawned where the flowers were supposed to be. I'm glad there's a home function or I'd be fucking pissed. Anyways, we conveniently spawned next to the Lich's castle, so I marked that on the map. Hope it doesn't have its old particles, because if it does, I hope you'll like low bitrate footage. Either way, I know that's not the first boss. Now, the quest book wants me to make a map. Boy, I don't need a fucking map, I got journey map. I spot a labyrinth and initiate a fight with the Naga, which, now that I think about it, this is the first time we actually had to fight a boss. That being said, the big snake didn't stand a chance against my trusty cleaver. After I killed it, I ran to the Lich Castle to see if I could blast through it, but I was swiftly overwhelmed and warped home before I lost my shit in a dimension I didn't deserve being locked in, returning to the overworld at the start of day 181. Alright, after resetting some steel, making concrete because I thought it would give me the speed boost of vanilla concrete, it doesn't by the way, I make a new key to enter the Twilight Forest, which then created a new portal instead of spawning me in the same spot, except this time it did not break. Fuck this mod. Anyways, off to the Lich, where I discovered the good news. The particles aren't lagging me here. The bad news? This fight is bollocks! This Lich's projectile is molecular in visual size, but detonates far too fucking early, which ended up killing me. So I used back, since we discovered that only works on death, and I clipped through the floor and died. Fuck off. I scaled what I think to be the right castle, it's the wrong one, dies, go back, scale the right castle, dies because the grave mod sucks, one more time, almost died, turned on peaceful so I could get my shit back, fell through the hole in the floor because apparently that fucking happened and the grave doesn't make, collision for itself, dies, go back, gets my shit, turn on the difficulty to find out we need to get the fucking map now because turning on peaceful for a second permanently deletes the boss from reality. Fuck Twilight Forest in older versions, dude. This was close. I'm skipping this shit for now, since apparently we actually don't even need to indulge in it. Yeah, there's a fucking quest that skips the entire thing. Okay, critic mode is coming out right now. If you offer the option to ignore the addition, why is it here? It's not serving a purpose to gameplay at that point. If I'm not getting anything of value here other than boss fights in an unfinished dimension that's still in development, then it should just be atomized at this point. I'm skipping it. I'll let the comment section decide whether I run this shit back. I can't be asked. By the way, this goes on until halfway through day 182, where I warp home and now work towards the key to skip the Twilight Forest, which requires the special key and Constantin, which means we need more nickel. I make some torches, I throw myself into the unknown depths where I find no nickel and instead discover I forgot to empty my backpack, so I resurface to empty it out into day 183. We empty our backpack and return for nickel. I refuse to leave until I have a fuck ton of it, so while we do this multi-day mining trip, hi! How are you? Let's talk for a second. Many a thing has happened, but two most importantly. One, casually letting you know that my face was actually revealed in the community post nonchalantly in case you were curious what an IRL caveman looks like. I don't know if you are, but, it's there. I just wanted to rip the band-aid off. I thought it'd be funny. And two, I released a mod pack. It's an alpha and it's called Bottom of the Barrel, a mod pack where I attempt to change Minecraft's design to be focused on the fundamentals it was built on: underground exploration, resource collection and management, and building, also known as mining and crafting. Building is there too, but I just didn't have a fancy enough word for it. It's on CurseForge for right now with the intent of the Modrinth launch in the near future. It does allow for third-party platform downloads though, so you don't have to use their launcher at all. And a new update is already here called the Farm From Done update, where I reworked the entire nutrition system, fishing, and basically cooking and making food and farming way more important. If you could give my pack a whirl and provide feedback within a Discord, I'd greatly appreciate it. Anyways, back to silent digging. Day 184 to 185 was entirely spent looking for nickel. After literally only fighting like 12 in the mines, I did a JEI check and found out there actually is a reason we want to be visiting the Twilight Forest right now. It has a significantly higher chance to have nickel underground. Well, I'll be damned, I'm not axing it from the playthrough yet. This wasn't discovered until like halfway into day 185, but we got from 12 nickel to 40 in one trip. I dropped half the nickel because while we need Constantin, we need nickel for other alloys, and I snooze away day 185. By the way, this mining session was entertained with the Distractable podcast. Good times. Day 186, started pouring out the alloy, during which I made 8 whole new diamond chests because we were surprisingly running out of mass storage. We had to make gold plates to make the chest, so I just sort of twiddled my thumbs during that. After the chest got made, I picked up my Constantin and made the Twilight key, allowing us to skip that bullshit. Now we gotta acquire the ingredients to make the scarab piece, which is apparently a result of completing Twilight Forest roots and immersive engineering, so we shall hard focus getting that arc furnace, I guess. Day 187. Alright, I'm gonna blow your mind real quick. We actually have enough for the arc furnace. I'm just bad at counting and math it at a large scale. Only downside is we need to process more metals for this. So really, it's just one big ol' smelt day as I mass craft all the bits, like the steel sheet metal. God, that's a lot of steel being taken out back and shot. Oh well, when it comes to being wasteful, there's no one better than I. That being said, I stocked up a bunch of iron in the smeltery before I slept for the next day, where we hopefully actually accomplish finishing the bits we need for the arc furnace. Day 188. Bad news. A whole new day has transpired IRL, and while I have had most of what I needed, Electrum I was short on, and I was still dumping iron. So, today was spent as a mining day after crafting more of the machine blocks we needed. I did also restock on potatoes, but yeah, this day was a nothing burger. But I did have this moment where the floor started talking to me. Must have built this on an ancient burial ground. Yeah, that's accurate to how corporate functions in real life. Day 189. Gold and silver have been dumped into the smeltery. Time for some Electrum. Take the portion we get today and make some plates, then we craft some pistons and acquire the heavy machine blocks, which completes the quest, but we ain't done yet. We now spend the day building the arc furnace, all the while showing off my goldfish level memory, because at this time I have not taken my meds for the day yet, but we eventually get there. Forgot my hammer, fuck. Hit the cauldron, and now we have an arc furnace. The slog is over, right as the day counter read 190, but we will do as we normally do and wait out until the actual morning of the day to count it. Bottom line is this gives us access to not only just new resources, but also some more efficient processes for metals, such as steel. I spent the rest of the day sorting out inventory woes until the true start of day 190. Now that we have an arc furnace, we gotta power it. Something tells me that this will be what does in my current power setup, and I might need to seek out more than one TE generator. Also, depending on how fast it processes this more efficient steel recipe, I might just immediately repurpose the blast furnace room into an arc smelter room. But for now, let's just get it connected. Most of the today was spent smelting down some nickel for plates, turning Electrum into plates, then wires, and god, that's a lot of plates, then making another thermoelectric generator, connecting it to the power grid, then connecting the arc furnace to the power grid. And without further ado, it's time to see our beautiful machine work. Holy shit! There's a god! And it's the arc furnace! Not only did it process this shit at Mach 10, but doubled the steel output. It's efficient with resources, and now that I've seen this, I can say this with the utmost confidence. Fuck the improved blast furnace, it fucking sucks and wasn't worth it. This is an upgrade, this was worth it. She's a beaut. Prime engineering. I need pictures of the arc furnace on my desk pronto. Get to it, artist. After absolutely falling in love with a machine, I rest my weary head dreaming of the arc furnace as we move to day 191. After I woke up at half-mast, I began to think of a solution for our problem. The arc furnace is incredibly fast and efficient, at the cost of sucking my energy grid dry, so we gotta figure out high voltage power. The only issue is I'm currently not really all that aware of what could provide an HV output. Let's just do a wire quest real quick and maybe we'll figure it out. We need lime glass, which is a whole different problem, but we can do this. I grabbed our leftover cactus from the leather grabbing days, replanted a chunk of him, and then promptly turned the rest into green dye. Crafted lime dye with bone meal and the green dye, and we made wacky munchable insulated glass, after which sights were set on HV wire, which required aluminum and steel wires. Did your classic smeltery into plating into wire true combo on all of them, making the wires, then use remaining steel and aluminum to make it the relays and connectors. We have the equipment to use HV power now. Now we just need to actually produce HV power, and we'll tackle that here real soon. Day 192. First, we need to know loosely how much we're pumping out, which I spent most of the day trying to figure out. I thought the current transformer would let me read that, but as it turns out, it hates me and doesn't want to tell me, so I guess I'm breaking out the math. I discovered that each TE gen is actually putting out somewhere around 100 to 300 per tick, so if we want to actually put out Mondo power, the best thing we can do is actually just upgrade our system to HV power. And then all we gotta do is just make enough thermoelectric generators to put out enough power for just that supply in general. Because while, yes, I could do the biofuel setup right now, the biofuel setup would just be a lot of things I do not want to do at this current moment, and we don't really have the way to automate that very easily, so I'd rather just do it this way. Also, it's free energy. It's just easier to manage, so we at least need to make the most of our TE generators. I made an HV transformer and spent pretty much the entire day trying to figure out the plan for the new transformer layout. I'm thinking what we do is simply convert our whole system from LV to MV to HV in that order, so I'm going to go ahead and uninstall the capacitors real quick and rearrange the system. This continued into day 193, where I eventually got around to putting the grid together, but we need an HV capacitor, so say it with me, everyone! LV capacitor, MV capacitor, wires, and now we need the HV capacitor. Weirdly, it was cheaper to make HV than the previous 2 tiers. I've got an unhealthy amount of lead and it was a non-problem. I connected the whole system up and we now have capacity to run HV. So now we gotta figure out just how much energy my entire power grid system is making in this current moment. Day 194. It's not unusably slow, but certainly less than I thought. However, I suspect that I can actually get a good enough output with 2 more TE generators. We gotta wait though, because we got some quest lines to knock out. First and foremost, Industrial Slime, which requires me to travel out because I don't see a reason to make a pig farm yet, so I'm just gonna run out and body an entire family of 10. You know, usual caveman behavior. Then I went to the Arc Furnace and put together what honestly just looks like a shitty meal recipe, and we got balls! Who knew the recipe for the McRib would make balls? Anyways, next up is the Industrial Leather, which requires us to bring Buffalo back. Attempted to do so, but apparently zombies decided to show up to my luau uninvited, so I guess we're just starting the next day with Buffalo rituals. Day 195. Ritual done, overfed my Buffalo to force them into a growth spurt, sent some to hell, and forgot I already had like 18 Buffalo hides. Fucking classic. You know, it's pretty difficult to find out what all you have when you have an inventory like this. We need Imp Hide next, which I presume to be found in Hell, which I was correct, though we had 2 close calls with the stupid Divine RPG mobs that spit fire and do far too much damage to be reasonable. I still stand by this mod being the worst part of the entire experience. Nonetheless, I return with my Imp Hide and process our Industrial Leather, completing the quest and starting our journey for days 196 and 197. Because let me tell you about how much of a complete pain in the dick the scarab pieces are to make. First off, you need to kill a scarab, found in primarily forests, plains, and jungles. Not so bad, right? Wrong, because not only does it have a seemingly rare spawn rate, but it's the size of a fucking raisin. So even when you fly over the biome, you won't see it. Good luck! Then we have to kill king crabs for bits from them. King crabs and crabs sharing the same spawn pool, and there's 2 different crabs from different mods, and the king crab only drops around 1/3 of the amount you need to make the component for the scarab pieces. I got 2 words. Fuck you. I spent a day and a half flying around until I ran out of flying fuel to find these stupid fucking crabs, and that was almost a damn hour. Recommendation for next time. Maybe don't make an item that solely relies on Minecraft's shit-tastic mob spawning system. I know it's a large ask, so alternatively, only require me to kill 1 instead of multiple. Moving on. Day 198 to 200. Alright, now we need something from a bat. Surely it can't be... I'm ending the episode here. I've been scouring underground, killing every bat I've seen, looking for just 1 batwing. And out of the 20 I've located, not a fucking one dropped it. So I'm going to end the episode here before my sanity gives out, and while I would normally do a recap of what has happened between the first 100 days and the 200th day, we have not seen any semblance of reasonable progress beyond completing immersive engineering since then. So here's my vote to you guys to put in the comments. Do I cheat in the singular batwing, or do I tough this out? I will let you guys decide. It's been a mostly earnest playthrough outside of me, turning on peaceful for the stupid Divine RPG mobs, and I hate the possibility of us having to, resort to this. But at this point, I've spent a straight hour on this, and I'd rather spend an hour on something fun to do. Thank you to all of the members and commenters who help keep the show going. This show wouldn't be possible without you, and until next time, this has been the Bond Dweller, bringing you videos you didn't ask for.